beautiful Facebook, Instagram, social media world. Welcome. Welcome to today's Inspire, Innovate, Ignite Conversations That Count. I'm Sophia Sol from Sacred You, our sacred community, and tonight we have a beautiful, beautiful panel, amazing panel, who's joining us to talk something that is really close to my heart and has been my whole journey, and that is self-esteem and me. So many of us, so many in our world, people have had challenges with self-esteem all their life in different areas, and tonight we're going to have a really nice discussion on how we can overcome that self-doubting, that inner critic of us, that judgmental critic of ourselves, to really empower our self-esteem. And with us, let me introduce our beautiful panel tonight, because it is 6 o'clock here where I am in Australia. But tonight we have with us Hara. Hara, just say hi, or just wave from her. Hara's joining us from Amsterdam. And Hara Bloom is a life coach and a mentor, living a dream life in Bali and also travelling the world, because now Hara's calling in from Amsterdam. Far away from the confines of your previous career in the BBC, Hara, which we really want to talk a little bit about, and how you had the self-worth to leave that. But after years of chasing shiny objects, peak experiences, and reaching the point of quote-unquote success, Hara has travelled the world, studied mindfulness, spiritual healing, heart music, plant medicine, tantra, somatic movement, and authentic relating in Australia, South America, and Bali. And now you guide other women who want more fulfillment, freedom, and fun. So thank you so much for joining us, Hara. And then we have our beautiful coach, yes, Law of Attraction coach, but also tribe host of the Conscious Law of Attraction, Jen. And Jen is a Law of Attraction trainer calling in from LA. We do have an absolute global panel tonight, which is wonderful. And Jen is a teacher of the foundational principles of conscious creation, and would love for you to join her to learn how to implement the key principles so you can consciously create a life you love. And I said Jen is the host of the Conscious Law of Attraction tribe, which we will talk about. And joining us, I have to say this, I want to really thank you, Maddie, who's joining us from India at the very last moment. We have had a couple of people who haven't been able to join us tonight due to sickness, so Maddie's stepped in and been able to come in. And Maddie, of course, is a freedom coach. Love it. Absolutely love that word, freedom. A freedom soul coach, and is amazing, truly is. As a freedom soul coach, Maddie's aim is to guide change makers, especially coaches, to get freedom from burnout and limiting beliefs, and go from being burnout to thriving. The intention in the end is to create a sustainable space that will help coaches and us to grow and expand and experience freedom. So thank you ever so much, Maddie, for joining us at the last moment. And of course with us is our amazing virtual assistant, Angel, who's tuning us from the Philippines, who's here to do all the techie stuff. So for everyone who's watching us, whether it's live or on a replay, please put your comments in the comments. Please put any questions in the comments, and we will get back to all our panelists. And of course, do click on everyone's links in the comments to chat with them personally, to connect with them. So tonight, like I said, we're talking about self-esteem. Just to give from my thing, I've had challenges with self-esteem most of my life. I was born with a genetic disorder and was very, very much bullied, had no self-worth, didn't even think I was worthy enough in being here or worthy enough to speak. So it's through an ongoing process that I've been able to change that. Now I just push myself to talk out on panel discussions and lots of other things. So tonight I'd like to ask everyone who's joining us and also who's watching us, let's just start first of all by telling us your journey and the challenges that you've experienced in your life and what you've done to get to where you are now. So let's start. I'm going to say Jen, so because you're right up the top, right beside me, tell us a little bit about your life, and also I said, what have you done to overcome those challenges?
So for my whole life, I've felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Um, I grew up in a very chaotic household, a lot of fighting, a lot of yelling, a lot of chaos, really not a lot of boundaries. And I didn't know it, but I've always been a very sensitive child and empath. And so that was very, very difficult for me because it took everything in. I didn't have my own personal space. Um, and so, when I started going to school, I felt different on the inside, but I also really stood out because I'm tall, and I developed very early. And so, I stood out, so I was picked on, and I just didn't feel comfortable in my body. So I looked different, I felt different, I was picked on. And it really caused me to have a lot of anxiety, and ended up being like severe depression to the point where I had trouble going to school. And so my parents just got really exacerbated and were like, we don't know what to do with you anymore. We need to take you to therapy. And it was like, okay, so at this point, I'm like, this was in the 90s. So therapy really wasn't like that well accepted, right? So it's like, I look different, I feel different. Now I'm going to therapy, which if people found out, that's just another thing, right? That they're going to pick on me for. And I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to blend. And I just couldn't figure out how to do that. And so going to therapy got kind of reaffirmed that I'm the identified patient, that there's something wrong with me, that it's my fault. And so, after that, I just had this feeling like there's still something wrong with me. The depression got worse. I was in the hospital a couple of times. I have some addiction issues. And really, things didn't start to shift until I started seeing an acupuncturist. And she was like, I think you're an empath and you do really well talking to an intuitive development coach. And so she hooked me up with the coach and I started taking intuitive development. And then I also started doing more therapy for me because I wanted to go to therapy. And so between that, I really just started to understand myself more and gain more self-awareness. Read some books, really delved into that world, started to take courses on things like theta healing and subconscious reprogramming, chakra balancing, Reiki. I ended up going to massage school and getting a massage certification. Um, Finally, because I tried regular school, but that just didn't work for me. And so I got a massage certification, right? But everything, I was doing okay, but I still had the underlying issue that there was something wrong with me. And so what happened is that my body started to give out because massage is a very difficult career for the body. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Right. So I was like, universe, what am I going to do now? Like, I don't know what to do. So I asked for help. And I was put in touch with this guy, Christopher Duncan, and his method. And the first thing he said on his video was, you're not broken. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to heal yourself. You don't need to do anything. You can be exactly who you are and create anything and everything that you want, because success is not personal, it's structural. And I didn't believe him. But there's something inside of me that was just like, this is something I need to do. And so I studied with him. And the more that I learned that, and the more that I learned that success is not personal, I started to understand that. And I understood that, all these things that happened to me weren't me. They were just things that happened to me and things that I've been taught and things that I've been, picked up on and learned and everything. And there's nothing wrong with me. And so I was able to let go of that. And that was the biggest shift for me, is that I was able to let go of that there's nothing wrong with me. And if I am having issues with stuff, it's because that there's a belief that's coming up or a pattern or something like that that's coming up that needs to be looked at, but it's not me, it's not personal. And so, that's been the biggest thing, is helping me understand that, and just being able to look at those as, kind of like a scientist. This is here, this is showing up, it sucks and I don't like it, but this is what belief is here. So obviously I need to like look through it, process it, do whatever, but it's not me. So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, because it's really it's such a powerful point to realize that it's actually not us. So many people, and myself included, I spent a lot of my life blaming me, thinking that I've got the problem. So we definitely want to know more about, the fact that, that it's not ourselves, but it can be absolutely, structural, and how we can change that. So thank you so much for sharing that, and for sharing your journey, to go through all that, having to go to therapy, and then being, looked upon, or identified and picked upon because you are going to therapy. You know, point out. So thank you for that. And what about Hara? What about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey to start with, and what are some of the things that you've done to overcome them?
Hmm. Yeah, so a little bit about my journey. I always remember the biggest kind of trigger from my self-esteem and my journey with kind of low self-worth really was I remember being a child and always being compared to my sister. And I don't know for anybody that has siblings, whether they've ever been compared to one of their siblings. It's like the worst thing in the world, because then there's like this competitive streak, and I'm not as good as them, and I'm not good at the same things. And I think, the important thing to remember here is that we're all unique and individual in our own ways. So as a child growing up, and be having this comparison aspect with my sister was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And I remember the biggest trigger for my self-esteem and low self-worth was, we were every time we would visit my mom's friends, she would say, how are the girls getting on at school? And she would say, oh, Helen's doing great, and Hara, oh, and it would fall silent. And this would be like a reoccurring theme. And even though there was no bad intention from my mom or, from anybody, I kind of hung on to this memory or this story or this memory that, oh, wow, if my mom can't say amazing things about me, that I'm also doing really amazing. And I'm super happy as a child, and I enjoy drama and creative arts and all of these things, then what does that mean for me? And as a child, of course, I took that on as my experience, and I was like, oh my goodness, like there's something wrong with me. So then the whole of my childhood and the whole of my studies and in college and university, I was striving and striving to prove myself. And then I went into almost like the wrong, sorry, excuse me, I have a cat digging into me. I then kind of went into the opposite end of that, which was almost like the people pleasing side of me that was like, okay, I'm going to do everything to try and prove my self-worth, my self-confidence. I can do it. Um, and then that kind of went into a little bit of unhealthy behaviors in the people pleasing aspect. But then I went on to university and, did everything I could to make sure that I got the best degree and to prove it to all of my friends and my family and my grandma, so that everyone would be really proud of me. But then also realize, yes, okay, I did that for myself. But then I started to become aware of like, oh my goodness, I have been doing this to try and prove that I am capable and that I'm able. So that has been a little bit about my story around kind of my self-esteem and my self-worth, how these imprints from my childhood have had an impact on me. And as I mentioned, even though my mom didn't mean to do any of that and probably wasn't even consciously aware of it, that you know having this influence from the outside does have such an impact when we are such small children who have brains like sponges and absorb absolutely everything from our environments and through our society and through the people we spend time with, which is beautiful that I'm aware of it now, because of course I would do things very differently when I have children. So yeah, the things that have been helping me over the years, I mean, so much. I guess one of the things is really believing, and I think it's something that Jen said earlier, is like or along the lines of, knowing that those stories and those experiences that I had, they're not mine. They're something that I had almost projected onto me, or that I went through, and they don't belong to me, and that I have the option and the ability to rewrite and to re-imprint those stories and to re-imprint new beliefs and new ways of thinking and feeling about myself. So, when I was in university, even though I had this underlying feeling of I can't do it, I'm not capable, I'm not enough, I'm not able, I constantly had to find a new way of speaking to and about myself, which was, of course, a more empowering and more positive way of being. So the self-talk, just really being aware of my self-talk on a day-to-day basis of how I am speaking to myself, speaking about myself, has been a huge one for me, and just really choosing my words and choosing my beliefs as my own, and not taking them from other people. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing that I want to share right now, because I feel like that's so important, is how we speak about ourselves and to ourselves with other people. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing right now. So that's what I want to share for now.
Thank you so very much for that, and you have shared a lot, and I definitely want to go back into it, especially about your experience of being compared to siblings. That is such a big thing in our world today, and also people pleasing. So definitely I've been writing stuff down, got lots of questions for that. So thank you so much for sharing that, Hara. And what about Maddie, who's joining us? Tell us a little bit about your journey through your life and the challenges that you've had with your self-esteem, self-worth, and anything that you've done to overcome it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for asking this question, Sophia. Just so you guys know, I have dogs fighting in the background, and they're adorable, but they love to kind of create chaos everywhere anytime I'm doing something. So we'll take this as a lucky charm. So, but please, ignore them as much as you can. And yeah, honestly, my journey has been a bit weird, mostly because of the fact that, when I was oftentimes, called fat, or, I was kind of teased around in school, my mom always supported me enough for me to be like, that's their projection and not yours. So I had that kind of thing growing up, but my self-esteem issues started to come up because I was self-projecting. And what that means is I was, this talented child, this nerdy kid in school who would always get good marks. And I'm not like bragging right now, but I used to work really hard at that point of time. But here in India, we have very high competition. So when I was preparing for medical school, I had to take a drop year because of the fact that I didn't get into the school just by a couple of marks. And a couple of marks here is basically thousands of seats behind. So, it's very competitive, which basically ruined my esteem, because I used to think that I could do it. I never had a doubt that I couldn't get into college when I'm trying so hard, but I didn't get in. So a lot of my life then became all about proving to myself that I was enough, that every time I wouldn't work hard, I was like, oh, see, this is exactly the reason why you didn't get into medical school. You're playing around, so I have had to push myself a lot to be like, I had this limiting belief, which is something that was really huge for me back when I first started coaching, because coaching came easy to me, right? And I was like, oh, this is so good, like I have to sit here, listen to people and guide them, like that is what I'm doing, that is so empowering, right? But it also felt easy, and because that easiness existed, I thought that I'm doing something wrong. And so I almost wanted to kind of back away from it, because I was like, maybe I'm doing something wrong because I'm not working hard enough for this. And a lot of my work then kind of became about understanding the importance of what I'm doing, and also fighting, first of all, accepting the belief that, hey, okay, you exist for a reason, because back then, this belief of me having to work hard enough to get it was real, because if I didn't work hard enough, I wouldn't have gotten in. It's a different story that I didn't get in, but I had to work hard enough nonetheless. Now that belief doesn't support me and serve me anymore, I don't have to lean on that belief because I know that what I'm doing is really amazing and important. And I'm working not hard. I'm doing a lot of smart work. I'm doing a lot of learning and educating myself about all this stuff. And so I had to understand this belief system and let it go, and just let myself know that I'm doing a lot of work. And what genuinely helped me in this journey, especially when I started coaching, I feel like since I started coaching, a lot of things started to change exponentially within me, because I was suddenly this person who was actively working on myself, which meant that a lot of hidden trauma kind of came up. And I was like, oh, this isn't what was advertised outside. Like everyone told me that this was going to be a fun journey, but instead I'm sitting here crying in the middle of the night or crying in the shower. Like this isn't what was told me. But I also realized that I had to move through these scenarios. And something that I do a lot nowadays is honestly document my journey and write down or record what I am doing every day. Because I also have this tendency that is almost fueled by that limiting belief that I thought I had let go of, but now is at a higher frequency, is that I am not doing anything at all. So I'm almost, whenever someone's asking me, what are you doing? Well, I have changed something right now and it's so amazing. Like I feel like I haven't done anything till now, but I'm doing so much more now. And then I have to consciously remind myself that that is not the truth, because oftentimes we don't see our own progress, we don't see our own journey. And documenting what I'm doing genuinely helps a lot to help me realize that every single day, even on the days which I don't think is productive enough, I am working on myself. I am learning. I am being, honestly, 90% of the time, that is such a huge thing. I am here and I want to, or I am putting in the work, because the work never ends, but I am putting in the work right now. And that is important. So I feel like for me, self-esteem is a lot of understanding, again, like, how these beautiful ladies said, a lot about how you talk to yourself. Self-talk is very important. And I tend to also make a note of how I talk to myself when things are going to shit, because I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm so this, I'm so that. And I'm like, okay, get it out. And then let's let that go, you know let it go, because we are working on ourselves. So it's oftentimes catching myself in what I'm speaking or what I'm saying to myself when things are not going well or according to plan, and being graceful about it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that, especially the way that you ended. So thank you. Being graceful about it, and also letting things out. So much today, we think, I can't think this, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, I shouldn't, this stuff. But to actually allow ourselves to let our thoughts out and then to bring about change. So thank you for sharing that. Definitely want to go into more with that. What the next question that I have, that brings me a little bit from what everyone was talking, but especially Hara, what you touched on, something that's very, very deep, is comparison. Like, to me, comparison for myself is a seed of low self-esteem. Okay, you said that, how much that you compare to your siblings. And I know that in today's world, comparison can be used as a motivational tool. That you can do better because whoever's done it, whatever. But as we all know, it never works. And especially as we grow up as adults, we tend to compare ourselves to everything else except for ourselves. But what have you done, and what can you advise, what tips do you have for all our listeners on how you can overcome comparison, that you can still motivate people, especially children, to motivate them to be the best version of themselves, but without actually comparing them to others? How do you overcome comparison? Who would like to start? Maddie? Yep. Would you like to go?
Yeah, I love that question a lot. I feel like I want to answer it in two ways. The first is about comparison as adults. I feel like by default, this is a very natural emotion, like it will happen. It is bound to happen no matter at what level you are on. You are bound to compare because it's natural instinct almost, that, okay, you know what, that we are not doing. So that's the seed for, like you said, envy and jealousy and low self-esteem. But again, once you are aware that the seed is there, you can decide whether you want to plant it in your environment, in your soil, in your mind or not, right? And so when I do have moments like this, I'm like, amazing, I hear you, you know, it makes sense that they are doing something amazing, but so am I. And what I tend to think of it is, I am just one person. So, you know, I help people with burnout, but I'm just one person and I can only help so many people. When I think of it as people collaborating together to raise the awareness or help as many people as possible, it's almost like, you know, they are my commander in arm or something like that. Like, we are working together, we are fighting together to get rid of burnout, to manage stress better, to understand stress better, to make sure that everyone is doing the thing they love without their own self holding them back. So it's a lot of that, it's a lot of understanding that. And I was honestly talking about this with one of my entrepreneur friends recently, and we were speaking about how it's, you know, if you try to do everything there is, which often tends to happen when we are like, oh my god, I'm comparing myself to them, so I need to broaden my horizons and I need to do as much as possible. What tends to happen is there are huge chunks inside our armor where people can shoot in. Rather than doing that, if I'm collaborating with them, which is something that's really huge, we can work together, be extremely specialized in the work that we do, and still help people and not
Yes.
feel like they are entering into our territory or we are entering into theirs. When it comes to children, I feel like one thing that would be extremely beneficial is helping them understand about responsibility rather than comparison.
Yes.
You know, you are responsible for your own work, right?
Yes.
And they are responsible for theirs.
Yes.
Comparison not only happens, you know, like it also happens within kids by
Yes.
default,
Oh, totally.
right? So at points like that, no matter at what age we are, we need to understand that we are responsible for our actions. If we feel like they are better at something, can we go and ask them for help? Can we work together to grow together? That is my ideology around it, because a lot of times I would play the blame game of, oh, you know, I would play the victim. I'd be like, they have all the support they want, they are doing amazing because they have all this support, I don't have it. So that means that it's not my fault, it's theirs. It's not my fault that I'm not winning. I'm not doing anything to work on myself, but I'm shooting them down. So responsibility is a huge thing that I feel like would genuinely help in this journey.
Yeah. All right. And thank you for that. And it is, you know, it is such an important thing, is to learn how to take responsibility for our own life, for our own actions, and not allow, you know, allow other people to compare us, or not compare ourselves to what other people are doing, especially as children. So thank you for sharing that, Maddie. And Hara, what about you? What do you have? Any tools or tips or anything that you'd like to share about, you know, comparison, and especially for children, how we can motivate them without comparing them?
Yeah, for me, I think it all comes down to celebrating somebody's uniqueness. I think that's really important. And I think so often in school and our education systems are very much in, I guess, what I would call normal mainstream school. It's very much like everybody learns the same thing, everybody wears the same uniforms, everybody, you know, and then there's almost like this segregation that happens in our education systems. Like, if you're not smart, you go in the bottom sets, which is where I would tend to be. If you are looked at as creative, then you were looked at as it's not intelligent. And there is this segregation that happens, which then almost like disconnects, like creates this natural this disconnection, of course, because we're looking at people in a way that's like, okay, you're over here because this is what you're good at, you're over here because this is what you're good at. And I think that what needs to happen is, instead of, you know, like in my childhood, because I was good at all the creative subjects, that wasn't necessarily deemed upon as that's not going to get her success. You know, that's not being on stage and performing and being in a theater. That's not going to get her money. That's not going to get her a good job or a mortgage or be able to support her family. But if I would have been supported maybe a little bit more in that process as a child, then maybe I would have been a pop star or whatever, you know. So I think it's about, for me, and this is also what I saw in my childhood, that those parts of myself, the performance and the musicality that wanted to come through me and the ways in which I express myself, yes, they were supported to a certain extent, but I would have loved it if I would have had more support from my schooling and from my college and through my university. So for me, I think it's about celebrating an individual's and a child's uniqueness and allowing that to be given space to and to shine, instead of tarring everybody with the same brush and pretending that everybody is the same, because everybody is completely different. And that's the beauty of this amazing, colorful, vibrant planet, that we get to be our unique selves. So I think that's the best thing that anybody can do for their child, is really celebrating their uniqueness, whether they have disabilities, autism, whether they like creative subjects, whether they like science. Like, support the child in that process and help them to see their amazing selves in that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd just like to honour you for sharing that, and of course also honour Maddie and Jen for being here as well and sharing your wisdom. But I'm just sitting here, Hara, and just saying, imagine the world that when we just really celebrate our own uniqueness and celebrate the uniqueness of children and as they're growing up. So thank you for sharing that. And Jen, what about you? I mean, with your experience, with your, growing up in your childhood and everything else, is there anything that you would suggest or you could do, for the future generation to celebrate their uniqueness, or is there anything else so they don't experience or overcome comparison?
Well, I think it honestly comes down to teaching by example. And, there's this whole school of parenting. I think Dr. Sheffield, I don't know her last name, but if you look up Dr. Sheffield, she does a whole thing on conscious parenting. And it's really about you being conscious yourself, right? And you learning all these things in yourself. And as you learn them in yourself, you're able to mimic those for your children. And so your children learn through example. And so that's the first thing I would say. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I have nephews. And I definitely can see how it's very, very hard to raise kids right now, because it's very, very highly competitive. Everything's competitive, are you doing enough sports? Are you going to school? All this other stuff. And I think what it comes down to, what I would have loved for myself is to, obviously have aware parents, but, I think just having a place where people talked about intuition, where you're taught intuition as a child, how you're taught to get in touch with yourself, right? And your inner guidance. And you were able to say, like, this doesn't fit for me. And it's okay to say this doesn't fit for me, and be guided by that, and understanding that it's okay to have a voice that's different than other people. It's okay to have an answer from your higher self or your spirit that says, you don't have to do this because everyone else is doing this, and you will still be accepted if you don't do this because everyone else does this. And so I think not necessarily bringing like religion and spirituality back, but just the understanding of that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to connect to your intuition. It's okay to say no. It's okay to question authority, because the biggest thing I think is that we're taught from, that if someone has a degree, if someone's older than you, they know better than you, and what they say goes. And that's a huge thing, because just because someone has a degree or whatever doesn't mean they know more about you. You know more about you than they know about you. right? They may know more about math or science or art or whatever, but you know more about you. And so I think if there was a way to just bring that back to a place where people are taught that it's okay to be you completely. It's okay to connect to yourself, to your spirit, to your, your super conscious, and live from that place. And it doesn't have to look like everything else. And there's a quote, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but something like, you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. Everyone's a genius, right? So if you're trying to get a fish to climb a tree, you're going to think the fish is stupid. But if you try to get the monkey to swim, the monkey's going to be stupid, right? So you have to judge the person from where they're at, what their genius level, not judge, but you have to see the person from their genius level. Everyone's a genius in something. And so it's helping them find that genius within themselves, and connecting. Meditation, I think, would be great to start teaching in schools, and just to be able to regulate your feelings, and to have a place where feelings are okay. They're okay. You can feel whatever you feel. And then, you can let it go because it's safe. You're not afraid to share your feelings. So that's, I guess what.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you have been saying, especially, that it is okay to be you, to give ourselves permission for that, and all those steps, including meditation, and to celebrate, to know, each of our own uniqueness and the uniqueness in children. So thank you for sharing that. And I do want to come back to that as well before we finish. But now I'd like to go into something else that Hara, you said as well, and it kind of goes on from, as a child, when we get compared a lot to others, and then as we grow up into adulthood, we become people pleasers, and we're wanting approval from others. So what can we do to really please ourselves, and to let go of that need for approval of others, let go of that need to really please other people, and putting ourselves out to do that? So Jen, why don't you, yes, let's go back. Absolutely.
So for me, this came down to understanding the human journey, where, you start out as this pure creative spirit, and then you have everything, right? You're in your mom's womb and everything's given to us. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to work for it. We have love, we're fed, we're nurtured, and it's perfect. We're born, and all of a sudden it's gone. And we don't know what happened. So it creates a trauma or wound in us, right? And then we create these beliefs about why that happened. Oh, it must be something I did. And then so what happens is then that becomes a view of the world. You start to learn that you have to do this to get this, and if you don't want to do this, and you're going to get this happen, all these things, right? And so you literally forget that you are still this pure creative spirit, just having this human experience. And so it comes down to remembering that I'm still this pure creative spirit, just like everyone else is, right? And when you remember that, if you come from a place of, I'm whole already, I'm this pure creative spirit who is everything, who has everything, who's just having this experience, then it's well, okay, so I'm everything just like everyone else. So there's no way I cannot belong, because I'm the same energy, the same as everyone else. So I already belong. I'm good enough, everything is there, right? And so then when I start to feel well, I don't fit in or I don't belong, I have to remind myself what the truth is. The truth is that I am this, I'm limitless, I am infinite, I am abundant, I am all these things, just like everyone else is, right? And there's plenty to go around, because one of my biggest things with comparison is that, I tend to take a long time to do things. I'm just slower. And so there are people who do things really quickly, right? And so I always felt I need to push myself to go faster, because the people who are faster are already taking up everything, because there's a limited amount of resources, or a limited amount of space, or a limited amount of this, right? And so that caused a lot of issues within me. But now I'm realizing that there's limitless, right? I don't have to rush myself. I could be at my own speed and let them be at their own speed. They're not taking anything from me, because it's limitless. The energy's limitless. Everything's limitless. And so it's, realizing that I'm limitless, and there's a human, right? There's a human aspect, and that's separate from this human, but we all come from the same energy. We're all made from the same energy. And one more thing I wanted to say is coming to me. The way I was explaining it to my boyfriend really made sense to me, but now of course I can't think of how I was explaining it, but it'll come to me later. Anyway, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and to realize that we are, that we are beings having a human experience and stuff. So absolutely, thank you, and we can come back to you again as well. So thank you for sharing that. And Hara, what about you? What do you recommend or to do to, even in your journey, was there any steps that you've taken to let go of that need to be a people pleaser, to seek approval from others?
Yeah. Well, I guess the most prominent point of my journey was when I decided to leave England 7 years ago. And I got this, I got my career in the BBC, which was supposed to be the key to my happiness. And I got there and I reached this point and I was like, oh, but I'm not very happy. So what's going on? And then I decided to travel and go to Australia, and then travel around the world. And it was almost like I had no choice but to please myself and to think about myself and my own needs. And I thought to myself, if I don't do this for myself, and if I don't listen to this inner calling and listen to what I need and honor that, then I'm going to be incredibly miserable and be very, very unhappy in this career in the BBC. So for me, it's been a journey of just like listening to myself and often asking myself, like whenever I'm doing something like my decision making or going about my daily life, I often ask myself, where am I doing this thing? Where am I doing this from? Am I doing this from a place of needing to prove myself, needing to feel like I need to get somebody else's permission to do things? Or am I doing this from a place of real joy and real excitement? So for me, it's a lot about questioning, where am I making my decisions from? Where am I moving from throughout my day? And asking myself these questions. I forgot your question. I went off a little bit.
That's right. It's like, because you were sharing about being a people pleaser, and you're actually answering that, this whole thing. It's about doing things for you rather than doing them for others.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about listening to our own needs. I think, being I think Jen spoke about being an empathetic person. Empathetic person. Empathy, empathic, all the same thing. Being, a person that is, empathizes easily and with other people. I was always a person that always, needed to fulfill other people's needs so that I could feel worthy within myself. Well, if they approve of me and if I fulfill their needs in my role, then I would feel worthy about myself, and that would make me feel good about myself. So I have had to really, to step away from noticing when I am needing to fulfill other people's needs, and tuning into my own needs and asking myself, what do I really need? Because in the past, I have definitely not done that. And when I've not listened to my own needs, I have, really pushed my own boundaries, got very sick from doing that. So yeah, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but for me, it's about listening to my needs and honoring my boundaries, honoring my no, and being able to say, no, this doesn't work for me, and honoring what I need, trusting in myself, trusting my intuition. And yeah, I went off on a tangent. I apologize if that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it made perfect sense, because it is true. It's, it's all about really, as you said, it's honoring my needs and putting myself first, and having the the ability or knowing that it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no to other people if it doesn't serve my best interest. So thank you so very much for that. You didn't go off in a tangent at all. All right, Maddie, what about yourself? What do you recommend or can suggest to people that to overcome this thing that a lot of us have is people pleasing?
Hmm.
How do we
Um, yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I feel like personally for me, self-awareness made a lot of sense. Mostly because people pleasing tendencies that I have within me, or like, that were really prominent back in the day, it it took me a while to realize that there were multiple layers to it, right? The first layer was the fact that there is the concept of, I want to please others because I want to be praised, because I want to be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing something for them. So oftentimes it was almost like I was giving away from my cup to fill other people's cup without realizing that my cup was running on empty. And eventually along that journey, I realized that, oh, hold on a second. With more awareness that I had, I realized that I am basically manipulating other people to like me, which basically means that I am not living in my authentic self. I am living according to their versions and their desires of how I should be. That then helped me realize that, okay, I do all of this because I desire to be desired. That's my ultimate need, to be like, okay, you know what, we need Madhurima, she's amazing, we need her. But it also, like, I feel like with the more self-awareness you have, the more understanding you have of yourself, you also realize that these are the things that are good, but within limits. All the desire of being desired is normal. The desire of helping other people is also normal. All these things are normal, but they become something too much that harm us when we don't understand the boundaries that they need to be inside, right? I don't want to be desired by sacrificing myself, because that's not helping me. That's not creating any happiness for me. It's creating happiness for them, which makes me happy. But eventually, over time, it makes me feel frustrated and sad that they are not realizing that I need someone to fill my cup up too. Like when I am filling their cup, my ultimate desire is that they fill my cup as well. And when that doesn't happen, there is almost this anger that starts to creep in. It's like, why are they not doing this for me? Like, I'm doing so much for them, why are they not doing it for me? So we start to expect a lot from the help that we give away. So I feel like self-awareness is really crucial in understanding why you're doing this, why we have these people pleasing tendencies, because we are all raised different. We all have had different experiences in life, so everyone has different tendencies for why they people please. So self-awareness is important, and also understanding that we need to give from the overflow of the cup, right? So we need to consciously fill our cup, and what comes from outside of it, what overflows, is what we would love to give away to others,
Sure.
wherein we are protected still while we help others, and not have any expectations of, oh my god, are they filling my cup or not, I'm running on empty, someone save me.
I love that, to give, to definitely keep on giving, but to give from the overflow, because then there is no expectations. So thank you so very much for sharing that. And can you believe it, our hour is almost up. But before we go, I have one last question and I know everyone has given so many tips already, which I really, really, really love. But the question that's really coming to my mind is, there's a lot of people in our world, we talk about that it's okay to be me. We talk about listening to our own needs and being self-aware. But what if there's someone who's watching us who doesn't really know what me is? Who doesn't, who knows that they're not happy with their life, but where to go? Like, what is me? How do we've got all these voices, we're sitting here and saying it's okay to be this and it's okay to be that, and to listen to our own voice and to do things for ourselves. But then you've got this little inner critic. I want to do this, but this little inner critic says, no, you don't deserve it, or you should do that. Do you have any other techniques or actual steps that someone can take to start them on the journey to regain their self-esteem, to start them on their journey to be aware of who I am, to gain that power, to empower themselves to say it's okay to be me, or it's okay to say no? Yes, Jen.
So for a newbie, I guess I would say,
Yes.
I really like a process I have that's a daily routine, a morning routine. But what we do is we start off with choices. So, if you don't know what you want, you can start with these 4 core choices. Like the first one is, I'm the predominant creative force in your life, because you have to realize and get to a place where you're responsible and understand that you create your own life. So you choose that. Then you choose to live a life that you love, because that encompasses so much, right? Who doesn't want to live a life that they love? Even if you don't know what that is, you still know that you want to live a life that you love. And then I choose to live that my true nature and purpose, and I choose to live. I choose to be or live in full health and vitality, or have a healthy and supportive body. So I would start with those core 4 choices. And the biggest thing is when you choose it, you step into that. And, even if it's just to close your eyes and you don't know what it would be like, maybe you think of someone on TV who, you see someone who is living a life that they love, or who is healthy, or who really feels like they're completely responsible for their life. And you say, what is it like for them? Like, what do I like in them? And it's just noticing that and stepping into that. And then looking at your current reality, right? And then it's like, okay, so what's kind of in the way? And then exploring what's in the way. And you can do meditations where you really just kind of think of what would it be like if I lived the life that I love. And you think of different areas, like in finances, what would I love to have just because I would love to have it? Family, friends, and you just start exploring these things. And the more that you get into it, you may start with just I just want to live a life like that, period. But then as you keep doing it every day, then it's well, you get more clear, and you get more clear, and you get more clear. And as you get more clear, then you can take the action steps will be more clear. So it's starting with, I would just even say, starting with the 2, I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life, and I choose to live a life that I love. And just exploring those every single day, even if it's for 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever it is, but just stepping into it in a meditation of some sort every day, so that your body starts exploring. And then the more you do that, the more your body's like, okay, this is safe, and I want to know more, and I want to know more, and I want to know more. And there are certain meditations you can do that, there's one that comes to mind called the land of plenty, where you go to this land and you explore what's in there. That's your land of plenty, the land of what you would love. And you just see there, you get symbols and different things. But if you're really just starting out, just think who do I know that lives a life that they love? It will be actor, family, whatever. What qualities do they have? What are they doing? And see what I love that this person does this. That kind of gives me an excitement. You don't have to understand what it is. Just that would be kind of cool. So you write that down, and just keep writing it down. Keep writing it down. The pieces will come. It's like a puzzle piece, right? It's like a puzzle. You get little pieces and little pieces and little pieces. So it's a process. It's a process.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and a process that I really love. So thank you for sharing that. What do I do that I choose to what I choose that I love? Does that make sense? I do what I love to choose. Anyway, that one. But I really like that, and to see the qualities in other people and how I can experience them. So thank you so very much for that. And what about Hara? What about yourself? What are some, with everything that you've shared, is there any tips or anything that for someone who really doesn't know who they are, who am I? I've got no idea. Where do they start off?
Yeah, for me, this is I love this question, because for me, it's all about getting curious. And I feel like play and adventure and going to new places, meeting new people, trying new things. For me, this is something that really accelerated my journey when I left England 7 years ago and I went to Australia. I had really no idea who I was. I thought I knew who I was. You know, had this career and I felt very identified with all of these things. But really inside, I felt I wasn't very, I didn't really know who I was. And I was just kind of going along with what I thought that
Yes.
everybody does and living kind of this mainstream life. And when I left and came to Australia, I had no idea what I was going to do, where I was going to go, where I was going to live. But I just started to meet people and to go to places and to put myself in new situations and get online and get on Facebook and see who I could meet and go on different communities and go to a concert. And for me, that is really like has been such a pinnacle point of self-discovery is curiosity, because how can we expect to learn ourselves and the truth of who we are if we're not willing to try new things? If we always continue to do the same things and stay in the same routines and the same patterns, we will always get the same outcome. So once we start changing things up and doing things a little bit out of the ordinary, that's where we find ourselves. And we might go to a concert, or we might meet people and then we say, that was great, that was a really good experience. However, I didn't quite like this, or that didn't quite sit well with me, and maybe I would do this a little bit differently that time, this next time. So as we have new experiences, we start to learn more about what we like, what we dislike, because otherwise, how can we learn what we like and what we dislike if we don't give ourselves that opportunity? So it's really about giving ourselves the opportunity to learn ourselves through having new experiences.
Yeah. And I think, thank you for sharing that. It's like giving ourselves the opportunities and having those new experiences and learning who we are. So thank you for sharing that. And Maddie, what about yourself? What tips can you share? What other final tips that you can share that really help someone to find out who we are or who they are? Yes.
I love that. And I actually wanted to touch up on the inner critic that you were speaking about. I wanted to let you guys know, whoever you are, wherever you're listening to, this inner critic will come up, because I like to call it the ego trap, and our ego, according to me, is something that is a defense mechanism that we have that protects us and keeps us in the comfort zone so that we can't go out and explore the things outside. So oftentimes this trap will first, trying to be like, no, don't do this. It will try to be diplomatic. If we don't listen, it will try to use our fears to stop us from going out there. And so a lot of people want to explore new opportunities, but they kind of let themselves go, and they're like, no, you know what, never mind. Let me be safe instead. Let me be in my comfort zone. What's the need of doing this? And so I feel like the best thing you can do right now, if your inner critic is way too loud and you can't deal with stuff right now, the best thing to do is, like Jen and Hera wonderfully said, figure out what are things that you enjoy in other people's life. What are things that you would like to experience in your life? I would also suggest going back to your own childhood, things that brought you joy, that nostalgic feelings of eating your favorite flavor of ice cream, going on road trips, going to the zoo, something like that. And repeat those steps. Bring back that feeling of warmth and joy for yourself. Do a lot of trial and error and continuously keep exploring. The more you do this, the more you actually act, even if it is baby steps. Even if your comfort zone is going and if you want to watch the sunset every day, but you are like, I don't want to do that, all you can do is like, can I see the sunset from my window? Okay, can I go outside my apartment? Can I go to the park next to my house? Small steps, but do it, because when you do this, that feeling of euphoria that comes for you will be the thing that kind of quietens down the ego and the inner critic, and you're like, hold on, I'm experiencing joy. This can't be bad. Let me experience it more. Let me see what else I can do to experience this. And that will definitely help you understand who you are.
Joy. Yes, I personally, I believe that joy is the purpose of life, that we're actually here to experience joy in whatever we do. So thank you for sharing that, and for sharing, for that tip that whatever we do, to try and experience joy in it. So thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank you all for coming on our beautiful panel and sharing all your wonderful, your own journey on how you reached to where you are now, to be the best version that you are now. And also all the tips that you've experienced during your life and sharing it to others. It's really, really appreciated. I've loved a lot. Certainly written them all down, or a lot of them down, and we'll be going over it. So, but before we leave, I'd like to give all you beautiful women an opportunity just to share any programs or anything that you'd like to give to our audience. We will, of course, be putting your links in the comments, but is there anything, any giveaways or any programs that you're offering right now that people can take advantage of, and possibly to find out who they are and to regain our self-esteem? So thank you. So what about Jen? About you? What have you got on for offer?
So I am one of the tribe leaders, tribe hosts of Sacred You.
Yes.
And so I run the Law of Attraction, a Conscious Law of Attraction tribe. And so, if you come join me, we meet every week, and I really help you discover yourself. I help you discover, that you are the predominant creative force in your life. I help you get into the values. We talk a lot about different ways that you can take control of your emotions, your emotional state. We talk about the unconscious mind. We talk about the structure of success, because like I started this, success, not personal, it's structural, right? So we go into the whole structure of success. We start to really see what's in the way. We clear some of those beliefs. It's a really amazing, amazing community. So I really hope you come join me. And then of course, there's other amazing tribe hosts in this community as well. But we meet once a week, and let's get to creating. Let's get to consciously creating our lives, because we can do it. We can.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And for everyone out there, I'd also do recommend joining Jen's tribe, which we will talk more about very, very soon on how you can actually do that. So thank you for sharing that, Jen. And Hara, what about you? What have you got to share with all our listeners?
Yes, I have a beautiful, for anybody that is kind of starting their journey of self-discovery, personal development, and just kind of starting out on this new journey for the first time. I have a really beautiful kind of starter guide that kind of goes through the steps that I went through when I came on this new journey to really develop my self-esteem and discover who I really was, and to help me to determine who I really am, what I really want. I have a really beautiful guide which is called Create the Life You Love, and it's, if you go to www.harabloom.com/create the life you love, you can download it there. And I think it's like a 20-page free PDF, really simple, and just kind of breaks down the steps to get you started out in a really simple way.
Well, thank you. I'll certainly be looking at that. So thank you very, very, very much. And Maddie, what about yourself? What have you got to share with our audience members tonight?
Thank you. So I actually have a couple of things going on. One is for anyone who's experiencing stress or burnout. There is often this tendency of us having very low self-esteem, where we are like, okay, you know what, you hate on yourself a lot. You look down on yourself because there's a lot of depersonalization that happens. So I would invite you to hop on a call with me. It's called Aram, which basically means the beginning. So you can hop on a call with me. It's a pay what you want, and you have to pay towards the end of it if you want to. But I would genuinely invite you to take this first step towards your freedom, towards your version of freedom. And the second thing is, I have a LinkedIn Live that is happening on the 31st, where we basically reconnect with the soul, with our lighthouse. I like to call it because our soul is what guides us through our journey in life. And so it's a free workshop for anyone who wants to join in. It will be a couple of hours long. And for whoever's interested, I'll share the link with Sophia or Angel, and let's get it going.
And we'll put it in there. So thank you ever so much, and I look forward to that too. So again, just like to thank everyone for joining us, and for anyone who is watching, whether it's the live or the replay, do come and join us. We have the list next for what's coming up. I do believe our next panel discussion is all about human design. So click on the links for the upcoming panel discussions and come and join us for that. That's in 2 days' time. the power of human design, and we've got so many more coming all the way up, right up until December. We'll be offering you many different panel discussions that you can come and join us. And for those who want to know more, all those who want to experience more, to reconnect with yourself that all these beautiful women have been sharing, to reconnect with that inner being, then come and join our sacred community. Come and join Jen's Conscious Law of Attraction tribe, or any of our other over 30 tribes now that can definitely help you. And right now we have our foundation special that you can join us just for $1 Australian, and try us all out at complimentary after that for 3 weeks. Come and join Jen's tribe. Go to Jen's tribe for 3 times because it's meeting weekly. All our other tribes you can come and join as well for 3 weeks. Then after that, it's just $15 Australian a month, or 135 a year, which is 25% off. Excuse me. But do click on the links, because that is part of our foundation special, and those prices will be going up at some stage in the near future. Don't know exactly when, but in the near future. And for everyone who is watching us, thank you ever so much. And may I really just like to honour again Jen Rosner, who's joining us from LA. I don't know what time it is for you, Jen, but thank you ever so much. 2 a.m. Wow. Thank you. And of course, Hara, who's tuning in from Amsterdam. Again, I'd just like to honour you, Hara, for sharing your passion and your wisdom. And of course, Maddie, who's come on at the last moment. So thank you ever so much, because you are a gem, Maddie. You are a real gem that I know that we can just call on, and you can come and share your wisdom and your passion to help people experience freedom. And Angel, who's been sitting there in the background, putting everyone's links in. Thank you, Angel. And for everyone out there, wherever you are, remember, for me, if I can say one step in gaining my self-esteem, is to remember my magnificence. So wherever you are, do remember your magnificence, and have a beautiful, beautiful day wherever you are.